Hey guys, it's Chris. From an octopus with a weapon to why whales beach themselves, here are 9 animals that do really strange things. Number 9. Fur seals and penguins. In the animal world, when it comes to mating, you would kind of expect it to go in a certain way. Usually within the same species. I mean, we've all seen documentaries, and Darwin's theory basically means the whole point is to help your species survive. But in 2006, researchers observing the native species of Marion Island in Antarctica saw something pretty baffling. A fur seal attempting to mate with a king penguin. Somebody was real confused. To be clear, this isn't meant to happen, and oftentimes fur seals can be really dangerous predators to penguins. So when the team saw it, they wrote it off as an accident and kind of moved on. But then the representatives at the Mammal Research Institute at the University of Pretoria, South Africa, saw the very same thing happening again, and that left many people questioning what was going on. Honestly, I did not expect that follow-up sightings of a similar nature to that 2006 one would ever be made again, and certainly not on multiple occasions, said Nico de Bruin, who was part of the South African Institute's team. No one is sure why this happens, which makes it all the more strange that it's happening at all. Yes, there have been various cases of species crossbreeding for one reason or another, but rarely does it end well. And again, something like this was never documented before 2006. So what exactly was the seal trying to accomplish here? Number 8. Blanket Octopus Attack and Defense. The blanket octopus is a very special breed of octopus, for while most of the species have free-flowing tentacles, this one doesn't. Instead, it has a blanket or cape or cloak that binds the tentacles together in a way rarely seen. But the blanket isn't just for show. Oh no, this is something that can be used to protect itself from foes as well as attack prey. Not only can this blanket detach when they need to and throw it at enemies so they can get away, though scientists are a bit unsure as to why this happens, but they're incredibly versatile in a way you likely wouldn't expect. You see, one of the deadliest creatures in the ocean is a jellyfish known as the man-o'-war. The blanket octopus doesn't like this jellyfish very much, and so what it'll do is use its tentacles to grab one of the jellyfish's stingers, of which there are many, and they're kind of an impressive length, and then it'll wield them as a weapon. What's more, it'll keep the jellyfish tentacle and use it against foes, and that includes the case of a human scientist getting attacked by one of these. So as you can see, they're very versatile and intelligent in regards to how they keep things away from them. And now for number 7. But first, be sure to subscribe to World List if you're new here. Number 7. Colonial Apathy. When you go to a zoo and you go and see the various types of monkeys and primates, you expect them to do various things, including playing around, making noises, and more. But for one zoo in the Netherlands, at the Emmen Zoo in 2013, something happened in the baboon pen that made no sense to anyone watching. Mainly the baboons went from a state of hysteria to one of apathy, meaning that they went from acting out to doing basically nothing. All of them together at one time doing nothing. Or more accurately, doing nothing together. Just think about that for a second. Think about all that it would take to do that for just one baboon, or for a small group of 2 or 3, but the entire pen? Now, this would be strange enough if it just happened in 2013, but it didn't just happen then. It also happened in 1994, 1997, and 2007. So years and sometimes a decade apart. And it all happened the same way, more or less. They just all became apathetic, sometimes even staring into the distance together while all looking in the same direction. No one really knows what happened here. Some think that their animal instincts noticed something that people didn't, but would that really cause them to go apathetic? No one is sure, and until it happens again, the mystery's just gonna continue. Number 6. Horror frog claws. There's a frog out there in the world called the horror frog, also known as the hairy frog, and it's called this because of its unique offensive abilities, ones that allow it to have claws, which is not something associated with frogs. The frog actually mutates itself on a regular basis by breaking the bones in its hand and feet in order to get the bones to protrude through its skin, giving it claws that are likened to cats. Kinda sounds like an X-Man, like Wolverine. Such mutation isn't unheard of in the animal kingdom, but for frogs, it is somewhat unique. What's more, the frog can retract the claws it made for itself, thus hiding its weapons from prey and predators alike. Though how this is done or even possible is unknown at present. These frogs are apparently so feared that when they're found in Cameroon, the locals will hunt them with spears to make sure they aren't in range of their claws. The fact that any animal can do this is surprising, but for a frog to be able to both make the claws and then retract them on command, oh, that's pretty strange. And you have to wonder how the frog got the idea of how to do this in the first place. Because clearly this isn't a product of evolution, else the claws would be there naturally. So this species somehow realized there was a way to get claws and then just went and got them. Number 5. Blue whale pitch. If you've ever truly studied whales, then you'll know that whales have songs, and these songs are what they use to communicate with one another to ensure that tasks are carried out and more. In regard to the blue whale song, however, something interesting has been going on and no one is able to explain it. Mainly, for decades now, scientists have been recording the songs of whales to try and further understand the way of communications and maybe even decipher them. But since the 1960s, a trend of tone has been noticed. Specifically, the pitch of the blue whales is dropping. What's more, it's not a small drop. It's massive drops in tone that have been happening consistently for decades, to the extent that those studying the whales need to adjust their equipment to help ensure that the songs get picked up. But why? Why are the blue whales doing this? If it was a specific pod, it could be attributed to various stimuli and such, but this is a worldwide phenomenon, one that no one can truly explain. Is it a result of ocean noises increasing, something in the waters changing, something in the whales changing? No one knows for sure. Number 4. Female chickens changing genders. In the animal kingdom, there are situations in which a gender of a member of a species may switch depending on the need of the group, such as when there aren't enough males to grow, the population of female would be able to switch over to being a male, and so on and so forth. This happens in many species, believe it or not. However, an odd variation of this has to do with chickens. We say it that way because there have been many documented cases of females becoming a male without becoming a true male. Confused? Me too. Let's go through it together. In short, the female, through one means or another, will have male hormones grow in her body to such amounts that she'll transform physically in certain aspects to being a male, but while still keeping her female reproductive parts. How this happens is kind of unknown. Chickens have 2 sex organs. In females, one develops into an ovary and one remains dormant. If something happens, anything from a hormonal imbalance to the development of a cyst, it can make the second organ grow and release male hormones, thus turning the female into a male. But why this happens? No one really knows. Why do the hormones suddenly appear in the chicken? It's not all about imbalances. Sometimes the female just chooses to become a male. And yet, it's not clear as to what led to that decision. But when they do, they walk and talk like a male chicken, all the while still being female. Number 3. Glow-in-the-dark scorpions. There are various animals in the world today that know how to glow, from certain fish to fireflies and more. But one you wouldn't expect it to happen with are scorpions. And yet, that's exactly what's happening. What's more, it's not exactly a voluntary glow. The glow apparently happens when the scorpion is exposed to ultraviolet light and/or is exposed to the rays of the full moon. They'll glow a bluish-green color, which makes them stand out. Which is kind of bad because since they hunt at night, that means that other predators can most definitely see them. Why this occurs in scorpions is a bit unclear. Some speculate it's because of their eyes, and they glow this way to be seen by other scorpions. Some even think it's their way of knowing that they're in the shade or a dark place, because if they glow, they're exposed. But none can say for sure. Number 2. Mass beachings of whales and dolphins. One of the most curious things about beaches is that sometimes an animal gets stranded on them. The most well-known of these would be beached whales, but other aquatic animals like dolphins have done it too. How they get onto the beach is a bit of a mystery, but what's strange is that sometimes the whales and dolphins do it on their own and in great numbers. For example, in 2009, a group of false killer whales did indeed strand themselves onto a beach in South Africa. Naturally, people came out to try and get them back into the water, and then the whales came right back onto the beach. Again, this wasn't a singular whale, it was a whole group. And dolphins have done this in groups as well. The biggest theory about this is that it has to do with some technology in the water that is driving the whales and dolphins to do this. But this has been happening a lot longer than you might expect, and long before these technologies were ever made, which means that these whales and dolphins are intentionally trying to die on the beaches, which no one can understand why. Animals are smart, but to be willing to do something like this? Is that truly even possible? Number 1. The birth of the narwhal tusk. When it comes to pure size, the narwhal, which is a toothed whale, has one of the longest teeth around, and depending on how you look at it, the longest tooth in the world. At first, you might think that the thing sticking out of the narwhal's head is a horn, but it is actually a tusk. And this particular kind of tusk is a canine tooth, one that starts in the mouth and then literally grows through the head via the jaw and doesn't stop growing, which allows the tusk to be up to 10 feet at times. Despite its length, though, it's not too heavy, only about 22 pounds due to it being hollow. Though rare, there have been occasions where a narwhal can even grow 2 of these massive tusks at once. But the fact that this unique tusk exists at all is kind of strange. Think about it. To have a tusk like this, to have it grow out of your head in a way like that, it's pretty strange. For elephants and rhinos, it's one thing because it's much more natural and you know what to expect. But with the narwhal tusk, not so much. That's a very strange way to get a tusk. Thanks for watching. What did you think of these very strange things that animals sometimes do? Do you know of any other animals that occasionally do strange things that boggle the mind? Definitely let us know in the comments below. And then be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the channel.